everybody. Welcome to Career Highlights. How are you all? You know how we get started. We start with our temperature check. We have the Honorable Judge Stephanie Mingo with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Judge Mingo. We're so excited.
Hey, Latoya, thank you. Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
So we've got a couple people on. We always do a quick temperature check. So tell us if you're with us tonight. First, if you're a student, place a heart emoji in the comments, a parent with a smiley face, an educator with a thumbs up, and a community partner with a gift box. We need to know who we're talking to tonight. And if you know any youth that are interested in the career field in law, this is the conversation you need to be at. So share, like, tag a friend, or ask the questions for them. That'll be great. So we're going to just give you a few minutes, enjoy the music while we wait for you guys to let us know who's in the building. Again, if you're a student, place a heart emoji. If you're a parent, place a smiley face, an educator, a thumbs up, or a community partner, use a gift box. I think we've got a few folks on, so please share, tag any youth that you know that may be interested in law. Then we're going to have a great conversation. Judge Mingo has a lot of insight, and she's done a lot, so I'm excited to talk to her. I don't know about you guys.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So we've got a few folks coming. If you guys haven't head over to the Lead the Way Learning Academy Facebook page, please do so. Her amazing bio is there about the work that she's done leading up to her current placement as a judge, or being elected, as a judge in November of 2019. So we ask that you just chime in. Still waiting on a few folks. I'm gonna give them a few more seconds, and then we'll just jump right in, Judge Mingo, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you're in the building, again, students, place a heart emoji, or a parent placing a smiley face in the comments, educator, a thumbs up, or a community partner by placing a gift box in the comments. We would like to know who's with us. I think we've got a few. We've got one person on Facebook, and I think a few on YouTube. So that's good. If you're watching, or you may be driving, then maybe that's why you can't. And we don't want you to put anything in the comments if you're driving. So don't do that. But if you are with us, please share. All right. Well, we're going to jump right in. Today, we have with us Judge Stephanie Mingo. She is the Franklin County Environmental Court Judge. And welcome to Career Highlights with Lead the Way.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. We're excited to have you. I know that maybe some of the students with Lead the Way Learning Academy may be interested in law, so we're just excited that you accepted the invitation to come out and share with us your journey, your just kind of how you got into doing what you're doing. I know you come from a family of public service. So that's huge. And you guys are definitely, from what I've seen, definitely about serving the people and about being fair and democracy and voting and using our rights and being a public servant. So thank you guys for that.
Yes.
So if you haven't had a chance to check out her bio, she's done a lot of great work in the juvenile courts as well as a guardian ad litem. So I'll let her share a little bit about her background, and then she can share with us what made her go into her line of work. So Judge Mingo,
thank you, Latoya. Thank you again for having me. Thank you for those who have tuned in. I'm actually originally from Canton, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And I am one of 6 children. I'm actually number 5. And I went to law school and college here in Columbus, Ohio. I have to say, Latoya, I had very humble beginnings. Mm-hmm. My father was a steel worker. And my mother, for the most part, she worked intermittently, but for the most part, she was a stay-at-home mom. But one of the things, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to plug up here while I talk. But one of the things that was very important to my parents in growing up was that their children have an education, a college education. And so while we struggled, my parents, they instilled in us that it's important to go on and to continue your education. So although I grew up in public housing, my parents really instilled it in us that education is important, and no matter your struggles in life, it is important that you go on and be the best that you can be and give back while you do it. Uh-huh. And so that led me to coming to Ohio State for undergrad.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up in the Columbus region. Yeah.
Wow.
For Columbus, I apologize. I am again having technical difficulties and need to plug up here.
You're good. You're fine. You're perfectly fine. So that shows that the strength that you guys pull from your parents, and definitely pushing you all to make
Yes.
sure that you use education as a
Cube,
tool
please.
to move ahead. So that's amazing. What
Yeah.
made you? What have you always just decided to be a lawyer, or just to study law and eventually become a
Yeah.
judge?
So let me back up just a bit here. So my father, he, it was important for him, for his daughters to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, right? He
Okay.
didn't want us to be dependent upon, I'm sorry, I moved out of frame here. He didn't want us to be dependent upon, a husband, right,
Okay.
to take care of us or to. Um, I do apologize. Give me just one moment here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
If you guys are with us, go ahead and put who's in the chat, though. We would love to know who's with us. And if you have any questions for Judge Mingo about law school or anything like that, this is the time to ask those questions. So please, please, please put them in the chat, and we will definitely share that with her.
Okay. We are all set. These are
You're good.
okay. I appreciate it.
No.
So as I was saying, it was so important for my father that we get a college education, and so he gave me two choices, Latoya. I either had to be a lawyer or be a doctor. Now, I had my heart set on being a journalist in high school.
Really?
I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed English class. I loved history. So I thought journalism would be a great path for me. I wrote for the school newspaper in high school, and I really had my heart set on it. But my dad, he gave me a little bit of food for thought. And you have to remember, I came of age in the 80s, and that's when the Huxtables were popular, right?
Okay.
So you had Mr. and Mrs. Huxtable, right?
Yes.
As doctors and lawyers.
And that's all you, yeah.
That's what you saw, and that's what you saw that you could aspire to be. As an African American, you could reach and go as high as you could go. And so my father grabbed hold of that and encouraged me to go to law school. And so I thought, okay, I could probably use some of my writing skills if I majored in law. And so when I entered Ohio State, what I noted, Latoya, was that many elected officials had a background in law.
Okay.
And I thought about some of my interest in history, and I thought it'd probably be a good idea for me to get an undergraduate degree in political science. I thought that would be, I thought that would complement my law degree. And so at Ohio State, I did major in political science, and I found myself surprised at how interested I was in American politics and the American judiciary. Now, I have to say, even in planning to go to law school after undergrad, never in a million years thought about actually sitting on the bench as a judge.
Really?
It just never entered my mind. So I completed undergrad at Ohio State and then went on to Capital University Law School here in Columbus. And again, never ever thinking about becoming a judge, but still wanting to do all that I could to give back, right? That's what my parents had instilled in me. And in entering law school, I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do with my law degree. But after that first year, I knew what I didn't want to do. I certainly didn't want to be, I didn't want to be a firm lawyer.
Okay.
I knew that much.
Okay.
And I knew, again, I really wanted to contribute to my community. So I sort of had an inkling at that point. I really wanted to go into the public practice of law.
Okay.
So when we say public practice, we're talking about your prosecutor, your public defender's office, working within government. So that would be considered the public practice.
And you also was a guardian at Litem, correct?
Yes. So after I graduated from law school, I had been around and involved with juvenile justice and domestic relations. And so I decided to do what we call is hang our own shingle and open my own solo law practice. And I focused solely on being a guardian at Litem. As a guardian at Litem, My sole role was really to represent the best interest of children who are the subject of abuse and
Okay.
neglect cases. Those are kids that are involved with children's services. Perhaps they are in a foster home. Perhaps they are part of contentious litigation in domestic relations court, which usually means there's a custody issue involved regarding that child. And so the court appoints an attorney to investigate that child's life, investigate everything from school to home, to activities, and represent to the court what would be in that child's best interest in terms of living arrangements and custodial arrangements. So I did that for quite some time.
Wow.
Yeah. And again,
And
just in that vein of thinking about how to best give back, families and children have always been, um, it's always been an area that I've always been sensitive to. And I think it's because of my upbringing, right? Coming from a family that was financially and economically disadvantaged, it was important for me to give as much as I could back to some of our most vulnerable citizens, which, as you could imagine, children in foster care and involved with children's services are in such a vulnerable predicament and challenge through no fault of their own.
what do you mind me asking, was you and your siblings the first generation of college graduates in your
Yeah,
family?
thank you for
From
asking that. So, interestingly enough, my father did have some college. He attended
Okay.
Miami University for a while.
Wow.
And, but during that time, it was the 60s. And,
Yeah.
he too had some financial disadvantages and he was unable to complete that education. And I think that's what made it so important to him that his children go on and obtain higher education. And especially his daughters. That was so important as
Mm-hmm.
African American females, that we be able to stand on our own.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely made sure you guys passed that down. So, when you started your path, you did the guardian item. How did you get into becoming Judge Stephanie Mingo?
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting path. So after doing the guardian ad litem work for a while, I decided to start my own family. And I thought that would be a good time to step away from the solo practice. You could imagine what the challenges are of having your own ball practice. Um, so I decided to take a step back from the guardian work. But again, that idea of giving back and serving the public, it was sort of woven into my DNA.
Okay.
And I wanted to stay within the public practice of law. So I decided thereafter to go to work for the state of Ohio. I worked some time for the auditor of state. I was an assistant chief legal counsel working for the state of Ohio, and did that work for quite some time. And after that, I had my second child.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to, again, no matter what I did in law, I always wanted to make sure the work that I did was meaningful. In law school, and this is certainly not a critique of any law student who is thinking of going the firm path, but in law school, sometimes you get caught up in chasing the money, right? You go for the
Mm-hmm.
job that where you think you're going to make the best income,
Okay.
and nothing wrong with that at all. But it just wasn't my path. I needed to do something that I thought would be meaningful for me and would be meaningful to my community. So after leaving the auditor of state's office, I picked up this compliance skill. And, for those who are tuned in, I really had honed into a skill where I was able to take a look at policies and procedures and legal issues and figure out how to maintain an organization in compliance. And so I developed this interest in compliance, and I wanted to see if I could exercise that muscle a bit in the private sector. So I very briefly went to work for a health insurance agency, um, yeah, as their not compliance officer, but a compliance specialist, just ensuring that this was when the Affordable Care Act was
Okay.
initially enacted. So you can imagine the challenges
Yeah.
involved with ensuring that a health insurance company was in compliance with all of the new laws. So that was a bit of a challenge. I enjoyed it.
I was like, was it fun?
I loved it, but I love policy and procedure. I'm
Okay.
a by the book rule person, so that was exciting. That was exciting stuff to me. But so that was my first real deep dive into the private sector. But again, I heard that call back to public service. And with that, I went off to work for Ron O'Brien, our former Franklin County prosecutor. I thought that would be a good shop for me to sort of work in and continue on with that spirit of public service. That is where I discovered Franklin County Environmental Court. I interviewed for a position. It was actually a position to work on contracts,
Okay.
reviewing and drafting contracts and
Policy and procedures.
policies and procedures. Loved it. Great. Well, I went to the interview and I found out actually they needed someone in their tax unit. And I thought, great, I don't know anything about taxes.
Okay.
I don't have a tax background. I'm not a tax attorney, but I'd
Okay.
love to learn a new skill. And again, it's the public practice of law. Want to give back to my community. So I went into the tax unit, and to my surprise, the tax unit serviced the, let me think of a less legally way to put it. The tax unit was heavily involved in the environmental court.
Okay.
And without getting too far in the weeds, the Franklin County prosecutor represented the Franklin County treasurer in environmental court.
Okay.
So when the treasurer had a vested interest in a property, usually by way of property taxes, they needed to be represented in environmental court for all of the properties that were at subject in that court. And so
Okay.
that is where I came into play. And that is how I found myself in environmental court. So when the environmental court bench was vacated by a judge who moved on to another position, I threw my hat in the ring and was appointed by then Governor Kasich to sit on that bench.
Okay. And then you ran in
2019.
to retain, and then you're up now too, right?
I am. It's a funny thing. When you are appointed, you are. I was appointed to fill the remainder of the term
Okay.
of the judge who had won election in another court.
Okay.
If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that? Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
But when you're appointed, you are only, and you run for election, you only win the right to complete the remainder of that judge's term.
Okay.
And so that is how I ran in 2019 and how I'm back on the ballot in 2021 so that I can begin my own term if I am successful.
And that is for how many?
6 years.
Okay.
Yes.
So with law school and undergrad, I guess, which I think is cool because your heart was set on journalism. I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. And a lot of times our youth, and if anyone's out there and you have questions, again, please drop them in the chat. Let us know who's on with us. I see several more people have joined, and I would love to know who's here. I see Miss Alexis is here. So hi, Miss Alexis. She's one of the coaches for Lead the Way. But when you decided to, you moved on to the law piece, were you happy that you tried something different? I know Miss Jackie with Lead the Way says you don't know what you don't know. So I know your heart was set on journalism. So were you, at your surprise, like you said, now are you happy that you did try something different versus...
Yeah, I am. It's amazing. I like that phrase, you don't know what you don't know. And so... oftentimes we encourage youth to, we ask youth from the time they can talk, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And sometimes we expect them to have an answer and begin to chart that path. But I feel like what my experience has shown me, and certainly what I'm passing along to my two daughters, is that having a goal is what's most important. Doing all that you can and making wise decisions to meet that goal is what's most important. You'll discover along that journey that what you originally thought you wanted to do or wanted to accomplish, it often blossoms into something else. It's something
Yeah.
else, something fulfilling and something rewarding. And I think that's what my journey has taught me. I initially wanted to be a journalist, but those same interests that led me to want to be a journalist led me to succeed in getting through law school and beginning an early career in law. So, I would certainly just say reach for your goals, right? Reach for your goals, but always know that if that goal turns into another path, it's okay. It's okay. Embrace that and continue on.
Right. So I know, can you share what motivates you in this industry? I know you've mentioned already public service, and I'm going to share, you sent a picture in it. I want to share everybody a picture of
Yeah.
you in the courtroom.
Oh,
So while you tell us what motivates you. So that's you here.
yeah.
It's cool.
It is cool. My goodness. You know what, Latoya? What motivates me is every case is different. Every uh, every set of facts behind each case is different. There are so many reasons that will lead an individual into environmental court.
Hmm.
What motivates me is that I have the opportunity every day to sit on that bench and to listen with compassion
Hmm.
and to give the people in front of me my very best to resolve the issue, not only for Franklin County, but for the individuals who are most impacted by it, right? It's our communities, it's our children who go to school in these communities. Those are the folks that are most impacted by the decisions that I make from the bench. And so I
Hmm.
guess that's what motivates me most, really just having the absolute honor to sit on that bench every day and to make a real impact on the communities throughout Franklin County.
Yeah, and then I know you had sent some other stuff over to kind of share about your court. So those that
Yeah.
may be interested in what Judge Mingo does in her courtroom, we do have a little bit to share. So I'm going to plop that up for you, just for you to kind of share through, walk us through that.
Yeah. So let me just say the environmental division is a separate division from the general division in Franklin County Municipal Court. So when you think of the general division, you think of your run of the mill misdemeanor cases like theft,
Okay.
like domestic violence, like traffic court, those sort of things. But environmental is a little bit different. Folks can think of me as their property judge. So I think I sent over a slide, Latoria, that just talks a little bit about the jurisdiction of the court. The environmental court has jurisdiction over cases where properties are considered a public nuisance. They're considered a public nuisance because they are in violation of housing, building, and zoning and health codes.
Hmm.
So when you think about the housing and building and zoning codes, you want to think about that property in your neighborhood where maybe the cement steps are breaking up, maybe the windows are busted out,
Okay.
maybe the chimney is crumbling.
Okay.
Those sort of issues could potentially land a property in environmental court. If it's considered to be a public nuisance, the city prosecutor may very well file a complaint, and that complaint would land in environmental court. Another area of cases that I routinely see as the environmental court judge are cases where properties are being um, where individuals are conducting illegal activity at a property. So you think about that house in a neighborhood that's perhaps operating as a legal drug house. Maybe
Wow.
they're conducting gun trafficking. Perhaps they are conducting prostitution. Maybe it's an illegal after hours club. Those sorts of houses that give our communities so many issues, so many problems. Those properties often land in environmental court. And I sort of want to explain to those who are perhaps tuned in today that I want to make it clear, I guess, that as the environmental court judge, I don't hear the underlying crime involved in that property. So, say, for instance, if a house or a building were being utilized for an after hours club and they were engaged in illegal alcohol sales, I wouldn't hear the case involving the illegal alcohol sales. What I would hear is the portion of the case where the prosecutor is asking the court to close down that property and declare it a nuisance property. So these cases are perhaps the toughest cases that I hear on a daily basis. When you see so much of the crime and the gun violence that we're seeing, in particular in the city of Columbus, most of those cases at their root, there's a property involved.
Wow.
If you hear of a gun case that perhaps happened in front of a store or a gas station, typically there's a reason why it happened in front of that store. There's probably some illegal activity connected to that property. And very often that's how that case makes it into environmental court.
Wow, you have a lot. So any questions so far? I know I always learn something when I talk to you sometimes. So that just, it's like, wow, you never know. And there's so much going on. And to know that, like you mentioned, you don't see the underlying crime, but you deal with more so those other pieces. That's huge. That's huge.
It is. I can't stress enough the real-time impact that the work of the environmental court has on Franklin County. We go about our work very quietly and very efficiently, but we are on the front lines of the violence that we're seeing in Columbus. With the COVID regulations, some of those regulations fall within the health codes in the city of Columbus, and so even for those establishments that are not following the regulations behind the new COVID limits, those cases also end up in environmental court because they are technically in violation of health codes.
Wow.
So we are on the front lines of quite a bit in Franklin County, as quiet as it's kept. We are a very busy courtroom, and I don't say this to be to toot my own horn in no way at all, but I do believe we are the busiest courtroom in Franklin County.
So have you seen, if you don't mind, this is just for my own personal, and those that are watching, they may want to know too, but they're not going to ask for whatever reason, but have you seen your docket increase a little bit because of the health code, do the COVID restrictions now?
Yeah, it's interesting because initially the staff and I thought we would see an untold number of cases coming from those COVID regulation violations. But amazingly, we've had pretty good cooperation from the business establishments in Franklin County.
That's good.
We've seen a handful, not as many as we thought. And that's good. That means that folks are paying attention and doing what they need to do to stay safe and to follow those orders that were put in place by our governor and by our public health agencies.
And that's good because we want to come off a restriction and we want to go back to some sort of normal. So that's good news. If you guys are listening, if you didn't get anything else out of this, Judge Mingo said it's not as bad with the health code violations. So that's good for business establishments. So hopefully we can get back to some new normal sooner than later.
Absolutely.
So you guys have heard, I haven't seen a lot of questions. You did get a lovely comment that came in from Mr. Clarence Mingo, our former Franklin County auditor. Excellence in public services is what we need. Thanks for your commitment to justice. And I definitely second that. And you coming on and sharing with our youth your own journey, and those that are on tonight, just to hear your path to becoming a judge, and what your parents instilled in you, even though they may not have had it all themselves. I think that is just enlightening. And I know with Lead the Way, that's what our coaches like Miss Alexis and Mr. Anthony, who's the program manager, is doing with our youth. So I know that there's some things coming up this summer as well that your court will be doing with some interns, and then tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yes, well, sure. So last year, when just as the COVID pandemic was hitting, well, obviously not just the United States, but the world, We had initially, Latoya, planned to welcome into environmental court interns. We wanted to really focus on high school interns, right? So many of the internships are offered to graduate students and
Mm-hmm.
undergraduate students looking toward plotting their career path. But we really wanted to reach out to high school students who perhaps didn't know what they wanted
That's
to
amazing.
major in or in college or be once they finished high school. And so, unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, we had to scale that back and delay that a bit. But we're looking forward to 2021. We already have two interns lined up to join us this spring, and it's my hope that if the numbers in Franklin County continue to go down,
Mm-hmm.
that we can bring in several other interns throughout the summer, just to give these students the opportunity to experience what the judicial system is like and see it from behind the bench.
That's
Perhaps
good.
I will have the opportunity to inspire some young lawyers or perhaps some future judges. So I look forward to opening that up to our youth here in Franklin County.
That's exciting, and
Yeah,
that's
it
amazing. I would have
is.
loved to have been one of those youth back in the day. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm
Yes,
excited that you're going to do that, and
I am
everyone that's
too.
watching, you heard it here first from Judge Mingo, so that's awesome. And thank you
Yes,
for doing that. I'm pretty sure parents and students, you don't want to wait till you're in college to know. Like, it's a great opportunity to kind of introduce them to that career path. So, um,
absolutely. So we're
so
looking forward to it.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing who comes through and
Yeah.
following you.
Yeah.
Oh, you got another blessings to you, Judge Mingo from Mr. Marvin. Thank you,
Oh,
Marvin. Also,
thank
thank you for
you.
joining.
Thank you so much.
So, as we wrap up and how you already shared your journey, what three things would you leave with our youth as they enter the workforce and develop their career path, whatever that
Yeah.
might be?
Okay. All right. Three things. First, be open, right? Be open. I think as my own journey demonstrates, you may think you're going down one career journey and choices and interests and opportunities open up an avenue to another possibility and another sort of journey. So be open to it and embrace it. Two, and this is for our young females and particularly our African American females. It is so very important that you believe and know that you are able to stand on your own 2 feet. Whatever that means to you. And I want to say, because I know, Latoya, your background is you went to the military
Yes, ma'am.
after high school, yes. And so I want to make it clear that although my choice was to go straight to college after high school, whether it's the military, whether it's trade school, I want to say to our young females, and in particular our young African American females, that it is so very important that you are able to stand on your own 2 feet. Whatever path you choose to take, you make sure that you are able to take care of yourself, that you stand on your own 2 feet, and that you reach your goals. Um, Third and finally, I know I mentioned during this broadcast that I never dreamed that I would sit on the bench,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't set out intentionally to pursue a judicial career, but that is where I find myself at age 47, and I would just say embrace those things that. Embrace those opportunities that come your way. I went to work as a county prosecutor at a point in my life where most attorneys would probably say, being a prosecutor is something that you would probably see yourself beginning to do when you're early in your career. I did it a little late in my career, and some folks might see that as a bit of a step back. Right, I was in my 40s. Most folks are sort of nestled in their law career and looking forward to retirement. And here I started a new journey as a county prosecutor. So again, I would go back and say, embrace the change, and and know that what some folks might see as a setback may actually be a push forward into that next step, into that very important next step in your career journey. So embrace it all.
Listen, so y'all heard it here first from Judge Mingo. Thank you for joining
Thank
us
you
for
for
Career
having me.
Highlights. And I
Yeah.
think it's really, really cool because it's Black History Month. And if you guys did not know, she is the first African American and the first female appointed and elected, if I'm not mistaken, to that particular bench. So kudos to you. We celebrate you
Oh,
this month
thank you.
in Black History because that's really cool that you not only served, the first African American elected
Yeah.
and appointed, and as a female. So you're making strides. Black girl magic. Uh,
Black girl magic.
Black girl magic for
Yes.
you. So thank you for persevering and I guess embracing that change that led you here. And you're a walking role model right here in Franklin County for
Oh,
our young folks. So thank you.
thank you. I honestly, I could not ask for a more rewarding role than to be a role model for our youth, and in particular our African American female youth, to aspire to do all that they dream. So I thank you for that.
Listen, you guys heard it here first. Next week, don't forget to join us again. We do have our College Readiness Wednesdays coming up on February 17th. You must register. This past yesterday, actually, they had Miss Catrice Gilchrist, I believe. She talked about student support services. So I'm not too sure. We'll put out the topic on Monday. So you got to make sure you follow on IG, Instagram, all those things. If you're interested in registering for Career Highlights, you can find that information on the link tree that is available on right here on the screen. Also, if you go over to Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, you'll find it there. We do thank you all for joining us tonight. And if you wish to contact Judge Mingo, got her back up here, her information. If you want to contact her or connect with her on Facebook at Stephanie Mingo for Judge, IG and Twitter at Judge Stephanie Mingo. Any last words, ma'am, before we go?
Yes, I just wanted to say to any of our youth, especially I'm sorry, I was looking at the bottom of the screen here, but I
Okay.
just wanted to say that I really am interested in, if there are youth who are interested in shadowing or perhaps observing a day in environmental court, please do reach out. We would love to have you. We have a very interesting courtroom. I'd love to spend some time talking to you. So please reach out if you have an interest, or if you have an interest in a legal career. My courtroom is open, and you can certainly reach out. Would love to have you in for an afternoon, and perhaps observe a little bit of the docket, and have a conversation about your interests.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for Career Highlights. Thank you, Judge Stephanie Mingo, for
Thank
taking
you.
time out of, I know you're very, very, very
No,
busy schedule.
my pleasure. Thank you so much, Latoya, for having
All
me.
right, you guys have a great evening.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.